Well, good Sunday morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Let's get open for business here, and let's wake up the football gods here on this week number 3 Sunday. Oh my God. And we're having our morning coffee, game day coffee here. You know, I actually like days like today where we don't play on Sunday, where we can kind of catch our breath and we can take a look around the NFL and see what's going on. Now is when you're beginning to see what the real teams are like. I remind you guys of last year when we were going in against the Carolina Panthers. I believe we were we 1-2? No, I'm sorry, 2-1. Going against them, they were 3-0. They had a great rushing attack. They were talking about how good their run-stopping ability was. Sam Darnold, of course, everybody was saying how great a move that was for them. And then we came in, we kicked that ass, and the rest of the season went downhill for them. You don't really know what the teams are like this early. This is still like preseason, where you're just still getting everybody used to playing together. This is where everybody's really getting into football shape. And for our Cowboys, we're going to be getting back key players, as this season goes on. Michael Gallup possibly tomorrow, heading Jason Peters and his experience into the lineup. Dak Prescott eventually coming back in a couple of weeks. I know Jerry Jones has said maybe week 4. I doubt that that's going to happen. He's just getting his stitches out tomorrow. And we'll see, are the Eagles that team where Hurts was just looking crazy last week, where that team is just like on a meteoric rise to the Super Bowl? I'll remind you of one thing. When was the last time you've seen a team that went wire to wire great? It's not very often. You see a lot of teams that are getting a lot of Super Bowl love and MVP support. Hell, Dak Prescott was an MVP candidate the first half of the season, not so much by the end of the year. It's a long season, and I'm curious because last year, the biggest win that the Eagles had was against the New Orleans Saints. They ended up going in there and pummeling them, and they followed it up with a loss to the New York Giants. Now, it could be, maybe, nobody's seeming to give the Washington Commanders at home, where they've got the home field advantage, where the railings may collapse on top of the opposition, giving them a chance. Everybody's looking at Carson Wentz to do Carson Wentz things, but Carson Wentz has a tendency to have some really good games when you least expect it, and then go ahead and get back to being Carson Wentz. And maybe the emotions of playing against the Eagles, and maybe that team getting behind him and stuff and saying we believe in that guy, maybe hearing that Carson Wentz was not the first pick, that they had a deal in place before Jimmy G had the shoulder surgery. Yeah, it was almost Jimmy G in Washington instead of Carson Wentz. Maybe all these things will make Carson Wentz dig deep inside and play the game of his life. You never know, because football is a strange lover. We saw the Minnesota Vikings destroy Green Bay and then follow up with getting destroyed by the Eagles. It's football. It's a week-to-week league. And so it'll be nice to see, either the Washington Commanders are better than we think they are, and they beat the Eagles, and it's all kind of knotted up in the division, or Washington is who we think they are, and they drop down, and the Eagles get another easy win. We'll see. We'll be able to take a look at, say, the Green Bay Packers and stuff and see, are they the Jekyll and Hyde, where it was week 1 just a week 1 hangover from last year, and they're really a good team. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady's hurt his hand and stuff, and he's breaking tablets left and right, and he seems to be flustered from, what's going on in the field, as well as his married life. We can check that stuff out. We can get a look and a feel and a taste of really what's going on, and I hope hope you guys join us here for our live stream. It'll be quieter here at the Man Cave because the Cowboys aren't playing, but, you know, we'll be eating the glizzies. We'll have meatball subs and things like that. And we will be watching around the NFL. So definitely tune in at 12:45 on. For our Cowboys, it's hard to go ahead. We're emotional. We've been called toxic as fans. We overreact sometimes. And we have become, and I can understand and sympathize with the Eagle fans, for them to go 50 years without a Super Bowl. We've gone 26. I can understand how they became the hated fans that they were. They're just angry because of not being there at the dance. And you are ready to fight. You're ready to blame. You are ready to just put foot in ass. And, you know, so when we looked at the Cowboys, you know, and the moves of letting, you know, Lyle Collins and Connor Williams and trading Amari Cooper and letting Randy Gregory go, you look at all those things and say they don't care about winning. But football is a game of turnover. And see, as much as we want the Bobby Wagners, the big names that we know, and the Von Millers and things, a lot of times it's the Jaron Curses, the Donovan Wilsons, it's the Anthony Barrs, it's the Malik Hookers that are those signings that are quiet, that they don't get a lot of publicity when you do them, but are the ones that actually pay a lot of dividend. You know, everybody looked at when the Giants signed, say, Brandon Marshall to go along with Odell Beckham and Sterling Shepard, and they were like, oh, my God, they're not going to be able to stop those guys. But they didn't take care of the offensive line, and Eli Manning couldn't get them the ball. It was a miserable failure. When you look at a guy like Galladay for the Giants, who they signed for $70 million, I believe, who can't get off the bench, you have to kind of look at some of the things that Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones have said about some of the free agents. You know, you look at it right now. Are we a better offensive line with Lyle Collins and Connor Williams? I don't know. I don't think so. Definitely not with Lyle Collins. Connor Williams, basically, his numbers are same as Biotish. Biotish has actually stepped up and actually played well this season. We'd probably be better with Amari Cooper, but I can't look and say that we'd be a better defense right now with Randy Gregory. I'd say at best it's a wash. Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler are actually doing really good. They've got 3 sacks from the position where Randy Gregory was. Now, Randy does have 2 forced fumbles week 1, but, you know, again, at a wash. And as bad as it seemed week 1, things look a little bit different here going into week 2. If the Cowboys with Cooper Rush can find a way to get another victory, then you're starting to play with house money, because the team will get stronger as the season goes on. You look at the schedule gets easier later in the season, where it gets harder for the Eagles later in the season. But then again, it's still a little early to decide, you know, what games are going to be easier versus which ones are going to be harder, because you just don't know. Right now, the Detroit Lions seem to be actually a real team that you're actually facing, and going into the season, you didn't think that they were going to be that tough. But that running back of theirs is definitely Swift, is definitely making some noise and making them a better team, like I say, a Barry Sanders. But let's listen in, because after week 1 loss to Tampa Bay, they said we had no chance in hell on the chance to win the division. And let's see if that's changed any this morning.
That sometimes, without meaning to, bad news turns into good news, which is to say that when they had Dak healthy, they're thinking they're going to fling it all over the place, and they don't have the personnel to do that. That by being forced to go to their backup quarterback, they got forced to do what they really should be doing anyway, and that is running this offense through their 2 running backs, through Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Is that the recipe for Dallas, even when Dak returns?
I think it is probably. I mean, listen, you know, when you look at both, listen, Jerry Jones been talking about all preseason, talking about how great Ezekiel Elliott has looked, Zeke. okay?
Didn't use him.
Tony Pollard, every time he touches the ball, he averaged like 6 yards per touch. So if you're looking at this Dallas Cowboys offense, the ball really should be going through the running back's hands, similar to like how Green Bay is going through right now with their running back situation. So the recipe for the Dallas Cowboys, running backs and the defense. Michael Parsons on the side. That's how they stay afloat until Dak Prescott gets back.
I like Michael Parsons a lot.
Is he the best player in the NFL?
He's one of them guys that can change a game. He can take over a game. And when you have a pass rusher, you know what I'd be doing if I was his agent? He's an outside linebacker. He's a pass rusher. He is not inside. He's not an inside linebacker. He is a pass rusher. He needs to be paid like a pass rusher in his next contract because that guy, when I watch tape, not only does he have the burst, but he has the ability to manipulate the tackle mentally. And when I say that, the tackle don't know what to do. How do I set this guy?
Yeah.
He's so fast he can run around the edge. Well, when I try to jump set him, he cuts inside and I can't stop him then either. So
and he's green right now.
He's just running around making plays like a young kid in high school.
What does he's green
fun.
mean?
He's green. He doesn't. Traditionally, he's been an inside linebacker. So now he's just using speed rush and kind of ripping up and under. He hasn't learned the nuance of the long arm stab.
So he's going to get better, is what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
If you maybe change him, but to do that, you have to go and get your inside linebacker because he is important as far as pass coverage. When you look at his body type and his explosiveness, he can be Von Miller, right? When you think of that, and that's dangerous, because you know how great Von Miller is. He's exceeded expectations.
I'm old enough to remember when an NFL team won a Super Bowl with Von Miller as their best player. Is Micah Parsons that level of good, Nico?
Of course he is. And when you watch the highlights, you can see it. And not only do you see the highlights of him making the plays, but I think it's his mentality. And you see him, how he's a leader. He's got it inside of him. And some guys you can say, I don't know.
Hey.
You can tell when he talks how much he loves it.
I'm just glad I'm sitting here at the table.
You would have got him, D. Wood. You would have got him, D. Wood.
That boy's a dog.
D. Wood would have put the D. Wood's being modest, man. D. Wood was like a dancing bear, man. He would have put them big old ham hocks on him.
I'm still saying I'm glad I'm sitting here at the table.
I was glad I'm sitting here at the table. Yeah, glad I'm sitting here at the table. That is one of the things that is the difference of this team because, as much as we want to blame the quarterback, but when we lose games and we score 36 points, I'm sorry, you can't blame the quarterback in the offense. If your defense, like back in the day, if you talk to a Randy White, you talk to an Ed Too Tall Jones, Tom Landry would say, if we can hold the team to 17 points, we win. We win. And that's the mentality that we have to have. Of course, Ed Too Tall Jones would say, we hold them to 0. That's what we going to do. Those are the differences of winning and losing. And see, had it been defenses without Micah Parsons like we've had before, we would have lost against Cincinnati. We've been blown out. You remember the Cleveland Browns scored, 42, 48 on us? The Cleveland Browns. And when you have to get into shootouts like that, it's not a recipe for winning. You'll win some of them. With the offense we had last year, we could win some of those. But the reality is you want to be able to ground and pound. And this is a case of, people say Dak Prescott could learn from Cooper Rush. I'm going to say Kellen Moore can learn from Cooper Rush and understand how the offense is better suited being balanced. Instead of saying we're going to rely solely on the quarterback's arm, we're going to throw the ball 70% of the time. Understand, especially while you're just getting wide receivers that are getting their feet wet, understand we're better off being able to use those big guys up front to maul the defenses, to wear them down, to run Zeke Elliott between the tackles, to get Tony Pollard the ball in space, to move the pocket, to use 12 personnel. It's not glamorous. It's not beautiful. It's not the, 60 yards deep catch that, CeeDee Lamb and everything else does a 360. But it's winning football. It's winning football. And that's, my friends, the difference of winning and losing. Stop all this nonsense. Stop all this bullshit trickery plays. Man up. Beat the hell out of the other teams physically and use the weapons that you have that are best suited in the long term for winning. And that's what I got to say about that. Got to get the studio outside here set up. It's crazy because it feels like fall now. It's chilly out. In fact, I think I better get the patio heaters ready just in case because, you know, it's only like 60 degrees right now. And I will see you guys hopefully 12:45. We'll be covering the Washington Commanders game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, we'll roll right into 4 o'clock. And I think that we've got the best game day live stream out there.
Our coach here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the show for the Sports Report.
One hell of a job, and only thing else I can